grounded and focused. Now, the dove went out until the waters were abated. The word for abated is kalal. That so we mean more along the lines of they sank in. So when the waters start to sink in, something happens because the dove came back with what in its mouth? Olive leaf. Okay? Olive leaf. Olive is zait. Zait. Leaf is olah. Olah. Allah. Okay? This word for zait means brightness. Okay? Something that brings forth illumination, something that shimmers. So it means brightness. Brightness. Let's consider these letters in and of themselves. The Zion. What does the Zion represent to us? If we as the Vav, if we yoke ourselves to the Zion, what are we yoking ourselves to? Represents the Word. The Word does what? Zion means weapon, so it protects us. The root of Zion is Zan, which means bread, nourishment. It nourishes us. Zion is the seventh letter, the seventh day we receive rest. Right. So within the Word we find the rest, the nourishment, and the protection that comes from the Word. So if we have the Word brings us brightness, okay, we have a Yod. Yod represents what to us? The power and the ability. No letter can be formed without the Yod. The Yod is the only letter that stands alone. So it's a representation of Elohim and the power of Elohim to create. But what else is particular to Yod? We said when the pen touches the paper, the Yod is formed, forms the letter, there's a Vav, and when it leaves the paper, the Yod is complete. So it's the first, the last letter that comprises the middle. So it also represents emet, which is truth, right? So we have the truth, power, and the ability. Tav, last letter of, we say that Yeshua died at the Tav because some people say cross, some people say stake, some people say tree, but he was actually the vehicle of what? Sacrifice. Vehicle of sacrifice. Tav represents the vehicle of sacrifice, but the Proto-Hebrew of the Tav is this. Basically, you don't know how to sign something, you make a mark. It represents the mark of the covenant. So Tav is a representation of the covenant. So what is brightness that the Spirit brings back to us? Brings us the brightness of the Word of the covenant, the truth, power, and the ability of Elohim in our lives to do something. We have the word olah. Okay? We have the word olah that means leaf, but it also means, it comes from another root that means to ascend. It's a similar root that means to ascend. What is the Spirit bringing back to us? It's bringing us back to us the brightness of the Word of Elohim. He's speaking to us the Word of Elohim that allows us to ascend into His presence. Where have we been in order to do this? We've been in the Word. We've climbed up to the top. We're in the presence of the light. What did we say that Bereshit 1, 2, and 3 said? That the earth was formless and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. It's our state before we enter into the ark, before we enter into the Word. And then he said, let there be light, because once we have learned, we've come to a knowledge, we've come to where we can work within the knowledge, we have the wisdom, and now we can apply it to our lives and push it out into the world. We understand. Now we are in the light. We are no longer waiting for this darkness to come back and forth, because we've finally gotten rid of it. And now the Spirit of Elohim descends on us, bringing us His Word through His covenant, by His truth, power, and the ability, which allows us to ascend into His presence. But we can only do this when we're dead, right?
No.
Is this something that we can have today? Yeshua said, repent, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Okay? We can walk in the kingdom of Elohim now. Okay? All this is a lot to think about, simply to get to this simple verse in chapter 10 that says what? That it's on your handout. These are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Unto them were born after the flood. What does that have to do with everything that we've just covered? This is basically everything that we covered over the last year in a nutshell. What does that have to do with anything? Because what's happened now is that the husbands and the wives, Ish and Isha, have left the ark. And now they are in the wide open world. And what's going to happen? These three names and all the generations that come after, but we're going to start with these three names because it's a very lengthy study and one day we'll get to it. These three names tell us exactly what we need to keep an eye on, what we need to watch for. We have Shem. Shem. Shem means name. Okay? Shem means name. I'm gonna call my kid's name Name. Hey Name. Yeah. Hey Name. The root of Shem is Shamayim, which means heaven. Okay? Shem. Name, heaven. Another root of Shem, Shema, which means what? What does Shema mean? Well, we've talked about it enough times. Hear and obey, to understand, perceive, discern, apply, obey, be content. Shem was the son of, or was the father of Eber, from whom came the Ivrit, which is called the Hebrews. Shem taught Abraham and Isaac. I always spell that wrong. Isaac. Noah also taught Abraham. Okay? What did Shem teach Abraham? Everything that we learned on the ark. What did Abraham do in his life? He walked with who? He walked with Elohim, and Elohim considered him to be what?
Friend.
Well, he promised that he would be the father of all nations, but Elohim considered him to be what?
Friend.
Righteous. Okay? So he taught Abraham about the name, and he taught Abraham about the realm of the heavens, and he taught Abraham to perceive, to understand, to discern, to apply the word of Elohim to that point, the instruction of Elohim to that point. We say, well, Torah wasn't given. No, Torah was given. Torah simply means instruction. What was the instruction that they received? We have it in chapters 9 and 10 of Bereshit. We call it the Noahide laws that say, one, let me see, respect the name. It says, I am Yehovah Eloheinu, or Elohecha. It says, we understand who you are. The second one is not to blaspheme the name. Now, what does not to blaspheme the name mean? The word of Elohim, his instruction, represents Elohim. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with Elohim. The Word was Elohim. Not to blaspheme his word. What does blaspheme mean? It means disrespect.
Bring to no effect.
Bring to no effect. Don't add to it. Don't mix it up. Don't take away from it. Okay? 3. No murder. Love your neighbor as yourself. So what do we have so far? Shema Yisrael, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad, Ve'achavta et Yehovah Elohecha, Bechol levavecha, ubechol nafshecha, ubechol meodecha. That we will love Yehovah, our Elohim, with all our heart, with all our mind, and with all our strength. We will Shema. And the third one is, love your neighbor as yourself. 4th, no adultery, which includes any kind of basically slipping into other types of worship, which takes us into no idolatry. 6, no eating live animals. The Japanese would be very upset. No eating live animals. What does that have to do with anything? Not only that we should treat everything with respect and be humane, but it's also an idea that we are not to take the life force away from something. It says, literally it says, don't eat the blood of the animal. Okay? These are 6 negative, 1 positive courts of law. Have courts of law. Why do we need to have courts of law? So that we can enforce the word. In Torah, why did we have to have judges appointed? Why did Moses appoint 70 judges to help him out? so that he could do a good job in enforcing the instruction of Elohim of the people. Okay? This is Shem. This is what Shem taught. This is what Shem represents to us. But we have Ham. Okay? Not something that you mix with cheese and mayonnaise. Sorry. I'll have these written up and typed up Friday, so. Ham. Ham means hot. Hot. What does hot have to do with anything? Proto-Hebrew of Ham is separate from the water. What happens if something is, the water separated from something? Dries up. Heat will parch something. Now, we've just come off the ark. We've just spent all this time learning. One route that we can go is to respect the name, to live the Shema. But another route that we can go is the route that Ham went after he was cursed, is that he went off. And he went off into the wilderness, and from Ham came the Egyptians and also the Canaanites. What was the curse spoken to Ham? You will be a servant to your older brother. He will be a servant of Shem. Well, they certainly weren't servants of Shem here, because as the Egyptians, they enslaved the Hebrews until the plagues came and the Egyptians were basically decimated by the Elohim of Shem. But then, where did the Ivrit go? They went to Canaan. And what happened in Canaan? Elohim said, go in and conquer it. Don't leave anything alive. Okay? But what happened in Canaan? What happened in Canaan? When they crossed over, Elohim says, kill everything. Don't let anything live. Man, woman, child. Kill off all the livestock. Only let the fruit trees live. That was what Elohim said. What did they do when they went into Canaan? They disobeyed. What did they do? They intermingled. What happens when you intermingle? And we'll get to intermingle a little bit more in a minute. But what happens is you begin to dry up, because the Word, the Spirit, the living water starts to leave you. Where are they at? They're in the wilderness. They're in the desert. It's a dry place. It's another route that we can take. If we don't stay in the Word, we allow ourselves to be sidetracked. This is what happens. Which takes us to the next son, Japheth. Japheth means open. Means open. Japheth comes from a root. I think it's pateth. That means to be open-minded. Okay? But open-minded leads to something else. What happens if we have an open mind? It comes from another root that means to entice, deceive, delude.